Hey, 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 welcome back to Stop It. I'm your host, Emily Erb, and I'm so excited. I have a guest on today. Her name is Gail O'Halloran, and she helps women stop performing and start living authentically. As a Martha Beck Wayfinder life coach, she guides women through the process of recognizing unhelpful thought patterns, letting go of outside expectations, and building the confidence to make aligned decisions. After a successful corporate career, Gail chose to follow her own inner compass and now supports other women in doing the same. She believes awareness is the first step to freedom and that self trust can be rebuilt at any stage of life. And I am so excited to have her on because I am in full alignment with what she has just shared. Well, what I shared about her. And so I'm really, really excited. This is going to be such a great episode, especially for women who we really struggle with putting so many shoulds on our to-do list, carry this heavy burden of a lot of responsibility. And we're going to just get into these topics that might make you feel a little uncomfortable, but then like if you're uncomfortable, you're going in the right direction. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my friend Gail, and she's going to tell all of us a little bit more about herself. Hey, Gail.
Hi, Emily. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here and to speak to your audience. This is just, I love your topics and your excitement and tone and stuff. So thank you for having me. I think to give a little bit of background, like I mentioned, I spent years in the corporate world, like looked really good on paper, but I think I was really like going long to get long more than anything else. And it wasn't that I was being inauthentic at the time. I think it was strategic. Like I had to perform in a certain way in order to create that success, paper success. And really what I found is that over time, the cost of not being in integrity, it was cumulative. So like it was a slow burn. It wasn't like one day I just kind of lost it. It was slowly my values were colliding with the jobs I was having, with the people I was working for, and ultimately the cost of that misalignment was really crushing on my mental health. And once I realized that, like I couldn't unsee it. I really
Famous
had to
last words.
I know I couldn't unsee it. I was like, okay, I can't. Like I can't. Mentally, physically cannot do this anymore. And I stepped away thinking, okay, done. Like that's good. And then what's next? And I think this is where it got really interesting for me because I became so disoriented. I was like, who am I if I'm not performing and achieving? Like, and as moms, and you said we're responsible, like we build identities around roles, like a leader, a mom, an achiever. We don't really know who we are underneath until it's absolutely gone. And so I was constantly like grasping at straws, like taking every how to start an Instagram page, how to like sell Facebook ads. Like I was taking all these like how to courses online and nothing was resonating. And I kind of, it was a really, really hard time. And then I I heard Martha Beck on Mel Robbins' podcast, and like she talked about these having our internal signals versus external validation and being aware of your thoughts and finding alignment. And I was like, whoa, whoa. This is what I've been missing. And I just immediately started her coaching program. And what I can't have come to realize over the last year of that training is I don't want this just for myself. Like I really want to help other women stop overriding themselves
Hmm.
the way I had, to notice those patterns and to question the social shoulds and to make decisions that you actually trust because you are listening to yourself.
Hmm. Oh my goodness. I feel like you nailed probably so many women of how they feel in life because it happens without us even recognizing it,
Mhm.
right? Like it just like
Yeah.
you said, it slowly kind of just accumulated. And then eventually you just started questioning things like, who am I? Like,
Yeah.
is this, and I love the word alignment, but I'm curious, did you understand what the word alignment was at first? Because I
No.
didn't. I was like, what does that even
Mm-mm.
mean? Like, you're in alignment. I don't even know what that
No.
means.
And it's a great question. The short answer is no, but how it was showing up in me, which I didn't realize, was anxiety,
Mhm.
depression. And so, again, going to external resources to treat those symptoms of what that misalignment was, it wasn't until I spent, all this time in this training to realize, wait a minute, I wasn't in integrity with my values were being questioned. And when I realized like what's happening inside of me, that's when I was able to change.
Yeah.
And but it takes work, and like you don't know that, and you're not going to get it from an external source.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think when we're chasing those external validations, and like, what would you use that as an example, as like an external validation? So listeners could kind of get clear on what do you mean by an external validation and what could that look like?
Yeah, so I have actually a great example I just saw today in a mom's group I'm on Facebook. This woman posted that she was going back to work after her kids were going into high school. And so here are the things that she liked to do previously. And she said to the group, so what do you think I should do? And that's a great example of looking for extra. She has the best intentions, and that's what anyone, because we're raised to look externally to say, here are my skills, what can I do? Instead of looking internally and saying, well, what do I want?
Yeah.
What interests me? What am I curious about? Like, and how can I make that work for me to kind of get that creative response?
Yes. Yeah. And I think because we talked a little bit earlier about how we lost along the way our ability to think for ourselves, right?
Mhm.
Especially like growing up, we rely on the people who we love and trust to tell us what to do, and that's part of it. As parents, we do have to set boundaries and guidelines and things like that, but like as we go, then we're so used to having people just tell us what to do. You go to school, that's what you do. After you graduate high school, you go to college. I mean, that's for my generation, we were just taught like you go to
Yeah,
college, right? And then when we graduate college, it's like, okay, well then you get a job. Then you get a job. And then it's like, oh, you're supposed to get married. You're supposed to have kids. And it's like
exactly.
our life is like we lost the ability to really think for ourselves, and then we rely so heavily on people telling us what we need
Mhm.
to be doing, what we should be doing, how to do it. And I think
Yeah.
that's where the disalignment comes in, where it's like I don't believe we ever fully lost ourselves. I think just over the years, things have just been piled on and piled on that has pushed down who we really are. Is that
Yes.
kind of what like you're talking about with your journey, with feeling of like not in alignment, questioning who you are, like what do you like? What are your values? What are your morals? Like what does Gail really enjoy? What brings her light to her life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from like to your point about you graduate college and you get a job and then you move on, and um I didn't follow that path, and I put myself through culinary school and then worked as a chef for a few years, and then that didn't feel aligned, and so I moved into another type of career, and then I just kind of progressed through all these different careers, but it it wasn't until really I understood what my values were and how like important it was to be authentic and to be able to like trust myself and feel confident in the decisions that I was making, where I was in an environment that wouldn't allow me to do that. I guess
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm saying, was where it really just kind of came apart at the seams.
How did you because before, I guess I call this the inner work, right? The inner messy
Yeah.
work, like when you said like you couldn't unsee things. And I remember that exact point where I was like, oh my gosh, like I can never go back to this older version of me because now I've asked too many questions and now I'm like questioning like this all of my belief system and it like shook me to the core. And like you said, like it was really uncomfortable. It was really scary as well because what you grew up believing, it was like, now is this actually truth? Like, is this actually
Hmm.
real? And how did you start to figure out like what were your values? You know, like what if someone's looking to look to be like, okay, well, what do I even value? Where did you start to see what your current values were? And were they in alignment with who you are? And did you want to keep those current values?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think honestly, where when I really first became aware of my values was working in the restaurant industry and seeing the different treatment between different people based on the color of their skin or, where they were in the chain of command, if you will, between the chef and like the prep cooks and stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't like this because we all put our pants on the same way
I like
and
that.
we're all human beings. And this treatment of people, I don't like it. And
Hmm.
so that was kind of when I first realized, wait a minute, one of like my key values is that we treat people with respect and in a consistent manner, regardless of, where they're sitting in the food chain, if you will. So I think that's when I first kind of became aware of it. And then that was a long time ago, but I think it progressed and kind of came to a head when I was in a role where I was I was told one day I spoke my mind. I'm a very direct person. And I think when I was not able to be direct anymore and just speak my mind, that I realized that was untenable. Where um, I wasn't rude. I just was kind of telling the truth. And that wasn't being well received. And I thought, wow, I can't tell the truth. Like, and that was, I think, the thing I couldn't unsee
Yeah.
was where I wasn't allowed to just be myself and be direct and be
Yeah.
honest without literally being told, yeah, you can't do this job anymore. And I was like, wait, what? I'm so confused. So I think that, and it was incredibly uncomfortable.
Yes, Gail, I
Yeah.
relate so much to that. And a lot of my other colleagues who are also entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
I realize we have a very similar trend where we don't like to be told what to do. And when we don't agree with it, like we feel very passionate about it. And I myself have had, issues with like who I was working for because I just was like, no, this is not right. I don't like agree with this. And so and I think you made such a great point about having a voice, right? Because when you would try to voice your opinion, you got shut down. And
Hmm.
I think that has happened with so many women just from societal beliefs and how we grew up. It was like, well, when you spoke your mind and you said your truth, like, and if it wasn't in alignment with what people wanted, it was like, no, you need to be quiet. And
Hmm.
so, I know that's been a personal growth for me is allowing myself to have a voice and know that my voice matters and that I can use my voice and I have a responsibility to use my voice
Yeah.
and share the lessons that I've been learning so that other people can grow as well. Um, so great. I love that. I think that's so important talking and trying to get some clarity around your values because honestly, I felt like I was living my life and I wasn't even aware of my values and
A
what I truly
hundred
valued.
percent.
And
Yeah.
then I started to take a look at because I also joined coaching and mentorship and
Hmm.
because I needed that. Like we weren't ever taught about like beliefs and our thoughts and
Yeah.
how our thoughts and our stories and our beliefs will always be in alignment with our actions. And we think that if we just change our actions, then everything is going to change. And it's like, no, we actually have to go deeper and we have to see what is our current operating system.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned with trying to figure out what my values are is I looked where I spent my time and where I spent my money.
Mm.
Those were like, I'm like, okay, I'm looking at things of where I invest a lot of my money in. And obviously my children, that was like an easy investment for me. But then there was other things like house projects and house decor. And I was constantly always looking to like redecorate, redecorate, redecorate. And I love that. Like, don't get me wrong. Like
Yeah.
I love being creative. But it wasn't like every time I would like redecorate something, like I still didn't feel I didn't it didn't I don't I was chasing something that I couldn't find in
Interesting.
redecorating. Yes. Because what I found was that I was chasing my self-worth in the things of like how my house looked and also what my body looked like. That's why I never felt like my body was enough because I was attaching my self-worth to the
Hmm.
things that I was doing or not doing. I don't even know why I got onto this topic. I get a little go on a little tangent, but that I think plays a really big role as well as like when we're attaching our self-worth to our accomplishments or what we
Oh, yeah.
have. We go to bed and then we feel like we're not good enough and we're exhausted and we're like, well, we just checked all these things off our to-do list. Why do I still not feel enough at the end of the night?
Yeah.
And I realized that I was just attaching my self-worth to all of the things that I was doing or not doing. And that's a whole journey in itself of just building that. But the shoulds really fell into that, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
I felt like I should be doing more. I felt like I needed to sign my kids up for all the things because everyone else was signing their kids up for, sports and then also like paying for the extra training in the sports. Like there was just so many shoulds
Yeah.
that left me so exhausted. So I guess that was my segue into like, let's talk about the shoulding, right? Of how we're shoulding all over ourselves as moms, as
It's
women. And it's like, okay, how do we get out of that? Because, we're creating awareness around how exhausting it is when we're always saying, I should be doing this, I need to be doing this. And a lot of times it's coming from like a place of fear, not want and desire,
100.
right?
I was just going
Yes.
to say that. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's coming from a place of fear. It's coming from the fear of not being good enough, the fear of being rejected, the fear of, and I think just being aware of those thoughts is such an important first step.
Mhm.
And a lot of us think that our circumstances are causing the stress, but it's actually the thoughts we're having about those circumstances. And
Yes.
then to your point, those thoughts then drive your behavior. You kept redecorating. And that behavior then drives, and then our feelings drive our behavior. So we have our thoughts, and then we feel some kind of way about those thoughts, and then we behave in a certain way. So if you get all the way back to the beginning of, or the second step of what are my thoughts, and just become aware of them, I think that's just the most simple thing you could do to
Hmm.
really kind of get started on what we talked about as like deep exploration and just pausing.
Yeah.
Like, just pause for a minute and say, why do I think I should do that? Like, what's driving me to think I should do that? And just find that answer in yourself.
And when you say thoughts, like, do you mean like stories that you're telling yourself in your head, right? Like
Yeah.
because we all have that internal dialogue, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so your definition of thoughts is just the stories that you're saying in your head when you're going to do something.
Yeah. So I think a good example could be like, you get in to work and your boss says, I need you to see I need to see you in my office in 5 minutes. And you think, oh, I should have gotten here 5 minutes earlier, or, you immediately think, what should I be doing? Instead of you create that story in your
Mm-hmm.
head. You have no
Hmm.
facts.
Yep.
The only fact you have is that your boss wants to see you in 5 minutes.
Yes.
So if you just take that fact on its face and then show up and creatively to respond to whatever that situation is going to be,
Hmm.
then you're going to eliminate that whole storytelling. To your point, that's like an example of a story, if you
Yeah.
will. Or I should, I I should, have 3 kids by the time I'm 35. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you want 3 kids by the time you're 35? Like, what would that look like? So those societal shoulds as well, that's
Hmm.
that's another like type of story that we tell ourselves.
Absolutely. And were you aware at the time before you started this questioning, did you know how societal norms, social norms impacted your shoulds?
I had no idea.
Yeah. Me neither. Me neither.
Honestly, until I studied with Martha Beck, I did not realize how the left side of my brain was
Mhm.
creating these thoughts. Um, and that I was actually, I mean, people talk about you're in control, you can control your thoughts. Yes, that's true, but it really takes some practice and
Mhm.
it really takes a level of effort and there is going to be some discomfort and I can't say that it's going to stop
Mhm.
either. Like I still do it every day. It takes something, that level of awareness to continue to build up. I think the best part is once you become aware and you become more comfortable in questioning yourself and you do start to see that change in yourself, the feelings, like then it creates this momentum of confidence because the confidence is coming from inside you. It's not coming from, you know, someone else telling you did a good job.
Mhm. But so many people believe
Oh,
that though.
of
And I
course. We all do, yes.
right? Like
A
we're like,
100%. A hundred
or
percent.
we're waiting till when, like when we get something that we are then going to have what we're hoping to have, like if
Yeah.
when we lose the 20 pounds, we'll then feel better about ourselves, or, um, when I can rock my jean shorts, I'm going to feel more confident in myself. And to your point, that's not something that is given or earned. We have that innate in us, which is
Mhm.
really, really awesome, but it's not something that we're ever taught how to do. At least I wasn't as a kid. Like I was never taught
Yeah,
that
totally agree.
we had to seek validation from other people, and other we had to rely on other people to tell us that we looked good enough. And
Mhm.
before I started my journey a couple years ago, I heavily relied when I was feeling very uncomfortable in my own skin, in my body, especially after having kids. I would constantly like ask my mom. I'm like, "Mom, what like do you think I look okay? Can you just, And she was always so kind to me. And I find that my sisters would do it too, and we were always just looking for someone to tell us like we look fine, like that we look good enough. And what I've learned is when we rely on that external validation, it's such a shaky foundation,
Mhm.
because if we're not getting it, like we're not going to have people tell us we look good every day,
Right.
unless I guess maybe some people do, but like I know I don't. Like I don't have people in my life being like, "Oh my gosh, Emily, you look so
No.
good. You look so amazing." Right? And so it's like if we're relying on that, like think about how that's going to make us feel versus when we can slowly build our own internal validation. And
Mhm.
so Gail, would you be able to kind of maybe like define what internal validation is or what that looks like, and maybe like an easy step that someone could start to practice, building on?
Yeah, I think, like I said, noticing that you're having this thought, I should lose 20 pounds and listen for that red flag phrase. So I should do it, or I have to, or I can't, or I'm supposed to, I think is another like
Mm-hmm.
really big one. Those words will, that's really like a signal for social conditioning, or like we talked about, like fear.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe not necessarily alignment for you. So just like to pause and notice that. And then you don't have to beat yourself up about it. Then just question,
Yeah.
like, why do I think I have to do this? And why would it be so bad if I didn't? You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, just ask yourself, why would it be bad? Or what's the worst that happens if I don't do this?
Yeah.
Because, and I think if you, and you got to answer yourself honestly,
Mm-hmm.
and then underneath that, you'll find like, oh, I don't, I think I should go to my brother's birthday party because I don't want to disappoint him,
Mm.
but I'm not really feeling up to it. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
just if you understand kind of what's happening inside underneath the shoulds, I think that that's where you can really find your own truth as
Yeah.
to what's going on, and you can be gentle with yourself.
Mm.
And then, like, think about, I call it a creative response. Well, what else could I do?
Mm.
Like, could I call my brother and sing happy birthday to him and explain, I'm not feeling up to it? And if that, I think the other thing that I found, Emily, is being honest with people who love you, like in that example.
Mm.
I have received more grace from people because I have said, look, this is how I'm feeling. I can, I could do dinner next week, or I could celebrate your birthday on Thursday. I'm not feeling up to it right now. People appreciate more
Honesty.
often than I have expected
Yes.
my honesty. And that, again, like creates a snowball of authenticity and makes me feel more comfortable in the decisions I'm making. And you find out if someone doesn't give me grace or can't accept this decision that I'm making for myself, then maybe they're not the right person for me right now. Or maybe I need to be okay with that, because I need to be okay with the decision I'm making for myself. Does
That
that,
is, yes, that is
yeah.
such a, like, I love that you use that example because I know so many women, we feel like we need to say yes to everything.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that can be that people pleasing in
Yeah.
us, right? Where we were never, and I think it's, for me growing up, I saw my mom just say yes to everyone.
Hmm.
And I, that was an example that I had. And so I kind of took it as, well, I can't say no, right? I
Yeah.
don't have permission to say no. And I love my mom, and she's the best mom ever. And I understand, just as I'm understanding about how society plays such a big role, it's something that has in society has told women that we need to say yes. We can't rock the boat because if we
Hmm.
say no, that's going to cause a stir, and we don't do that. We're just
Yeah.
supposed to say yes and smile. And I remember I actually really felt at one point, I was like, I feel like I'm super flaky because I'm always saying yes to everyone. But
Uh-huh.
then I realized I couldn't do all the things, right? Like I would just say yes to all the plans. People would ask me, like, hey, Emily, this is a lot before kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, 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 because it was like automatic. Yes. Like it just came out of my mouth. Like I didn't pause. Like I didn't know the tool of pausing and how
Yeah.
powerful it is. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I actually can't go to all these things. So then I had to bail on so much stuff
Mm.
because I overextended myself. And there is the power of pause.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just, I have been so intentional of building my pause tolerance muscle, of putting the reps in. And just like when I go and just want to say yes, I'm like, hold on, Emily, just pause. You don't have to give an answer right away. You do not have to
That's,
answer right away.
I was going to say that is so key. Just again, so you started with the awareness and what
Mhm.
am I noticing? And then you took the pause because you're spot on. You don't have to answer right away.
Yes. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn. And it was
Yeah.
very uncomfortable. And I realized because I think this is kind of in the realm of setting boundaries because
Hmm.
I do believe I had a conversation with my friend the other day and I said, well, I was never taught how to set boundaries. And that was true. But then my friend was like, well, I was never taught that it was okay to set boundaries because her mom would always just say yes to everything as well, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a trend, like, and it's no
Yeah.
fault to like I'm not shaming or judging women for doing that. It's about creating awareness and like
Yes.
really like is this something that we truly want to do? Is this and that's where we use that word alignment. Is it in alignment with what we really
Yeah.
want? And one of the things that I learned from one of my coaches, and I live by this, when someone asked me to do something,
Uh-huh.
she said, if it's not a hell yes, it's an automatic no. And then I follow it up with no is a complete sentence. And my husband is actually a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
people pleaser. And so I know that he has a really hard time saying no. And
Uh-huh.
he'll like have this like internal struggle and he'll feel so. And I see all this mental energy that it's costing him and like all of this suffering. And I'm like, Kevin, you can just say no. And no is a complete
Yeah.
sentence. And that has really, really helped too, where like we can say no and we don't have to give a reason why.
Yeah.
And, depending what on who it is, but to your point, I'm kind of circling back around when you said that you started being honest with
Yeah.
people. It lands so much better because when I notice that people in my life, when they would say no to something or they couldn't go, they rattled off this long list. And I used to do it too, Gail. I
Oh,
did
no,
it.
100%.
I like would come up with these
Yes.
stories. And
Yes.
then when I was on the receiving end of it, I just like read through all the bullshit. And I was like, well, why can't
Yeah.
you just tell me the truth? Like it actually would
Yes.
make me more mad that you're just not being honest with me. And to your point, we're really good at picking out the bullshit. We just are.
Hmm.
We're good at sniffing that out. And when people are being their authentic self, you feel it and
Yeah.
it lands so differently than
I feel
when
like people have more respect for you for
yes.
being honest and not bullshitting them. And I feel like you have more respect and you can trust that person
Yeah.
and that they will show up when they say they will because they can in that moment.
Yes. Yes. And so okay, so I don't, have you read any Brene Brown books by
Oh,
chance?
yes, I love
Okay.
Brene Brown. Yeah.
I love Brene Brown. My first one was I have it right over here. I thought it was just me, but it wasn't.
Uh-huh.
And it's like it was my first introduction to shame. And then I
Oh, yeah.
read her, which shame, I love talking about shame. And then her other
Uh-huh.
book was the Gifts of Imperfection. And so
Uh-huh.
that's where I really started to learn about this word authenticity. Because
Yeah.
you hear it, I mean, I hear it a lot now. People are like, well, actually, I just saw it on a reel. I used to watch Vanderpump Rules. I don't know if you've
Uh-huh.
ever watched Vanderpump, but
Yeah.
Sheena Shea was like, they talked about how she included the affair that her husband had when she was
Hmm.
pregnant. And she said, you know what? Like, I included it because that was me being authentic. Like, that was part of my real life. And that was such a big thing in my life. And if I'm writing a book about my memoirs, like,
Right.
how can I really be true and authentic to myself if I'm excluding such a big part? So, like, like, if people are like, okay, like I do want to start, if I'm feeling off and I'm feeling like just something's off in my life, I'm not in alignment, you're starting to question things and you're like, okay, well, where do I start with like being authentic with myself? Like, how do I even, what do I do, for a newbie?
Yeah. I feel like one of the questions you could ask yourself if you're I think the first is to feel like how do you feel in your body when something's coming at you, a question or what have you. And then I think a key question you can ask is if I weren't afraid of disapproval, what would I choose?
Oh, that is gold.
Because then that's at the crux of the people pleasing and the saying yes and all the things. So I think if you can take a step back, feel the discomfort and say, wait, if I weren't afraid of disapproval, what would I choose? Well, I would choose X over Y. and you actually take the step towards X and then you take action on that, I
Mm,
think that's like the first step into realizing your authenticity.
mm. I
If
love that.
that,
What was
I
that?
don't want to say that I've oversimplified it.
Yeah.
And again, it takes practice, but I feel like that's a way to be aware of things. And then a question that you can ask yourself, like, if I weren't afraid of disapproval, what would I choose? And then actually do it.
Do you think a big part of why it feels hard for women or people in general to be their authentic self is because it's coming from a place of fear of judgment, of fear of like not fitting in, fear of like, oh my gosh, they're going to see the real me. And what if they don't like the real me?
Yeah, I think it's that authority conditioning of the shoulds. Like, well, everyone who's in charge or who knows best says I should be doing all of these things. If I'm not doing that, then I'm breaking a mold. I'm not conforming to what everyone says I should be doing. So I think, yes. And what if they reject me,
And that's
right?
scary. That is
It's
being
can be
very
super
vulnerable.
scary. Yeah.
Yes. And just putting yourself out there because then you have that fear of like rejection. And
Hmm.
at the core of humans, we have needs and not just wants, like we have physical needs and one of them is love. Like a
Yeah.
baby who is born who doesn't get love will die. What's the word? It's like failure to live if they're not receiving love.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest fears that humans have is the fear of losing love. So to me in my brain, that makes sense. Like you're like, oh, if I'm going to put myself out there, that's really hairy and scary because what if I'm rejected? What if I lose that love?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to, I think, with family
Hmm.
and our friends. Um, One of the things when I started, so 2023 is when I really was like awoken, if you want to use that word, right? Where you
Hmm.
like, you can't unsee things and you start
Yeah.
questioning. And like, I just remember like thinking there has to be more to life than where I am right now. And like, especially because I had a lot of the things that I always wanted. I was married, I had kids, like we had a really good life, but I was like, there's something missing. Like I don't feel like Emily. And it just
Hmm.
so I went on this journey and when I started practicing like being my authentic self, it was very uncomfortable, especially with my husband's side of the family, because, it was a little bit easier, I think, with my family. I felt a little bit safer in that
Uh-huh.
because, like, I've known them forever, right? And they're my
Yeah.
fam, like, and so I remember when I was, in like I just started really macro counting. So that's what I teach women to
Oh,
do,
uh-huh. Yeah.
how to like track their macros in a really like simple, easy way, non-restrictive and everything. And I was with my in-law side of the family and they would be like, "Oh, Emily, like do you want to drink?" And that was something that like I have been kind of on a journey with of like
Hmm.
why am I drinking? Like, I really have like looked into my relationship with alcohol and I realized a lot of things about myself and my beliefs around it. Like I felt
Yeah.
like, for me to be more confident or more fun that I had to drink alcohol to do that. And so when I was like in my macro counting phase and wanting to hit certain body goals, me, Emily, like the real Emily just doesn't actually really like alcohol. And
Uh-huh.
so I remember like I would decline it. And, the one time it was said, oh, well, I thought Fun Emily was going to be here. And I thought, I feel like I am fun and I am fun without alcohol, but it was really, really uncomfortable. And that was part of me like taking one of those first steps of
Yeah.
like saying no and just saying, you know what, it's not in alignment with my current goals right now. And then let me tell you, like, because I took that uncomfortable action step, because it really was, because old version of me would have been like, oh, yeah, sure, like I'll have a drink, even when I didn't want to drink.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was the stepping stone in my journey of living my authentic self and just saying, like, no, no, thank you. And now, like, it's awesome because they'll come and they'll make me mocktails because, like,
Oh,
they,
that's awesome.
it was
Yeah.
really, really uncomfortable for me, Gail,
Yeah.
because I love Kevin's family and I love being with them and I do want to belong, but I was so
Hmm.
tired of trying to fit in because
Yeah.
I was showing up and not the real version of me and it wasn't landing and I wasn't landing for me either. And then when I started to question things and get curious and I'm like, is this really what I want? Like,
Hmm.
it just now it's just I feel so much more alive and alignment because I'm doing things that like I really want out of want and desire and not making my decisions out of like fear of being judged or not
Yeah.
liked anymore because it's like, it's okay if some people don't like you or not, I
Yeah.
mean, hopefully for me it didn't want to be in my family, but it's like not everyone has to like you either at the same point on the other side.
Hmm. Good for you for doing that. That's huge.
It was very uncomfortable, Gail.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, and that's, I think, in our line of work, of just like, we got to put in the reps.
Yeah.
Like you would with strength training. You want to build your muscle. And
Hmm.
so you put in the reps to do it. And it's the same thing when you're trying to live your authentic life and you're trying to come from a place of want and desire versus I should be or I need to. Right. Because, like,
Yeah.
when you're coming from your authentic self of like, I want this because I truly want this, like, how more likely are you going to be able to get that and to achieve it versus if you're coming from a place of like, I need to or I should?
Oh yeah. 100%. I think after I walked away from my corporate job, and I was like, oh, I need to do this. It was all about what I needed to do, and it wasn't about what I wanted to do because I didn't even know what that want was. And it
Mhm.
was really, to your point about discomfort, like, and family, of course, loving me, but being like, wait, what? Like, you've had a million jobs, you've always been successful. What do you mean you're not working anymore? What are you doing? Like, and that judgment came,
Yeah.
and I put that judgment on myself, and I kept reaching for things that just didn't feel right, but I also didn't know else to do. Like I said, you walk away from that structure that's you've created and that's been created for you into kind of like the ether.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I realized, wait a minute, I can explore and get creative and figure this out. And I'm still in the process of figuring it out, but showing up authentically now for my family. And I think they see that I'm happier. My kids are happier. My family is happier. And that I'm feeling so good, like being on this podcast today,
Yeah.
helping other people find this as well is that's my purpose, and
Yes.
that's what I look like. That's
Yeah.
what my authentic self looks like.
Yeah. And I can feel that, Gail. Like I can
Yeah.
see it. Like
Thank you.
I can see you in here. And like that's what I think so many women want. We want to know like our true purpose, our calling, and
Yeah.
use our gifts that we have. And that is just so incredibly brave of you and courageous of you to be like, you know what? I don't want this anymore. And even though it came with, some uncomfort, actually a lot of uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I quit my job too. And oh
Yeah.
my
It's
gosh,
hard.
it was hairy, scary. But you know what? I think that what we realized is staying there was costing us too much.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's like, okay, well, let's just take this leap of faith and try something new. And even though it's going to be uncomfortable, like I
Hmm.
realized whenever I choose hard versus easy, hard is always easier in the long run. Because
Yeah.
if we keep choosing easy, it's just like, well, we just keep repeating the same thing over and over
Hmm.
again. And then we expect these different results until eventually it's like, because life loves us so much, we will keep getting the same lessons until we finally learn them.
That's
It's
exactly
like the feathers, bricks, and trucks. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's
right.
like life will tickle you with the feather. And if you don't learn that lesson, throw a brick in your window. If you don't learn that lesson, then bam, you'll get run over by a
Yes.
Mack truck. And I love that because I recognize that so much in my life. Like I was ignoring a
Yeah.
lot of the lessons that I needed to learn.
Yeah. 100%.
So, well, Gail, thank you so much for just
Uh,
coming on and just giving us your expertise and just being vulnerable and sharing your truths, your experience, your story so we can all learn from that. Well, Brene Brown calls it ordinary courage. And I love
oh, yeah.
that. Yes,
Yeah.
right? It's just like just
Yes.
sharing what's on your heart. And I am so there right with you where we learn these lessons and then we are like, well, we have a responsibility to share these lessons so that
Yeah.
other women can grow, so that they can see this other side to life where when you can live in alignment and when you can let go of the shoulds and come from a place of making your decisions out of want and desire versus fear and really just live our authentic self because
Yeah.
it just it feels right when we live in our authentic self. So Gail, I know you have something that, well, first of all, where can people find you?
So,
Yes.
yep, people can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn or my website, which is my name, GailO'Halloran.com.
Okay. And I will put that in the show notes for people to
Thanks.
find that. Yep.
And then I created the 5-step awareness reset. So going from that reaction to like an aligned choice and kind of what I talked through today, that resource will be available on the show notes as well, I think.
Okay. And that would be like their first step that people could start to take to look into creating awareness and
Yeah.
then kind of give them some next steps with,
Yeah, it's a
okay.
really simple tool for like noticing your thoughts and then getting into a place where you're making confident decisions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And if people would want, like, they'd have questions, could they just reach out to you on social media?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Okay.
would be great.
Okay. Okay.
I would love to hear from your audience.
Okay.
I truly hope that this helps someone today. And I'm really grateful for being here today, Emily. It was such a delight to be with you.
Thank you. And I am equally grateful. I didn't know what to expect reaching out to be like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? I love your messaging. I love what you have to say. And oh my goodness, I would love to have you back on again. And
Oh
I feel like
yeah.
we could just like talk forever and
I know.
go into a lot of
Yeah.
conversations, and just talk about real stuff because I think
Yeah.
that's how we can really learn is we can just hear real stuff and grow and learn together and because that's we're never alone in this journey. We're never
No, and we're always learning. I feel like
yes.
every single day I am learning something new, and that's kind of
Yes.
the most fun part, to be
Right?
honest.
I
Yeah.
know. I love it too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again, Gail. And yeah, to my listeners, I would love to know your feedback. I know Gail
Mm,
would like to know.
yes, please.
Let us know. And if you have questions with Gail, like let her know, and she would be more than welcome to serve you. So I always love to end my podcast with life is always happening for you because I truly,
Mm,
truly believe that. I believe that all the problems that we do face, they are just gifts that are given to us so we can learn and grow from. So,
mm.
yeah, so I hope to see you guys next week and we will chat next week. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.